should be fine. Here, there, not, change that.
So let's try that. Okay, so let me know still if you, let's see. This is really exciting. This is so frustrating. I don't even know what to make of it. Let's see here. Okay, you hear something? Do you guys hear anything? Okay, there we did. So we got it now. There we go. Okay, this has been very exciting. Hopefully you'll be able to hear some music in the background a little bit. Maybe just a little bit. 5x5 sounds good. This has been so exciting this morning. Thanks you guys for hanging in there. Should be able to hear just a little bit of music in the background, not much. Okay. Baldini noises, good. Well, welcome. Not what we wanted, but beginning to episode 13. Yeah, so it's pretty exciting. This has been a great morning. But thanks, guys, for sticking with me. I think we lost most of the people when we dropped the stream, so we'll just try it again. Anyway, thanks again for joining us. I hope it's going to be worth the wait. So nothing on the music. That's kind of what I expected. Had some problems with the digital audio cables and messed around such that hopefully it will. Again, I just removed it. Hopefully, I'll reinstall it and we'll see what's going on. So no tunes, no problem. Hey, Nachikita. Hey, everybody. So yeah, there's some issues this morning, but again, we're going to fight our way through it. We're not going to be held back. They can take our sound, but they can never take our freedom. I'm joined today again by Mr. Red Fox, and I'll just do housekeeping at the end of the show. How about that? Since you guys have waited this long, hopefully you'll just stick with me through this. So again, I appreciate your sticking with us. Red Fox, how are you doing this morning? It's pretty exciting, huh?
Greetings all. Yeah, technology.
It's good
no
stuff.
comment.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And again, this is something I've done for a living for a very long time. It's just there's a bit of new software, and that does make a difference. But it's been just bizarre this last week. And then some things happened with the hardware as well, and that shouldn't have happened. So yeah, pretty strange stuff. But we've had some great conversations. You and I appeared last night on Iron Realm Media with Zach and all the folks there and Cami. So that was very cool. We got through the chat part at the beginning, and then we started. Every time Cami drops something, it's like, oh, hey, wait a minute.
That was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
That was fun, and her research and what she's done is absolutely mind-boggling, and it needed to be done. And all she's doing is just starting from the fundamentals, the principles of geology and magnetism, and expanding on that. And if that, then what? And et cetera, and et cetera. And it's for decades she's been doing that, and it's so inspiring.
It totally is. And she's so bright. I mean, she really hones down to the foundation fundamental stuff about it, the things that really make it tick. So rather than grabbing one idea and running off as some people do and just forcing a square peg into a round hole, she's willing to back up and see what happens and look at it again. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. And she's got such I love the oblique angles that she takes, right? Yeah. And this is the same sort of thing, again, we found with other people. For example, Mark Bloom, who sent us the document about transposition, and we had a chat about that. We both addressed it, and then as it turns out, he sent something else, and we're now looking into that. So this is the kind of thing that I find just really fascinating. And many other people, content creators, right? They're doing the hard work of opening some things up and showing and revealing the lies in this realm, and there are many. From my position, I feel like I haven't been really led to do that. I mean, we kind of already know what some of those are, at least if you've come this far, and we're taking a look at, from my perspective, trying to go further and do what we actually are, which is the truth community, right? Trying to find out the truth rather than just exposing the lies, moving into, well, what are the truths? And it does involve some speculation and some hypothesization, but to that extent, I think it's fascinating to see what's going on in this realm around us and to try to imagine and visualize what is actually going on and how we can approach this to continue to grow. And I think that is part of the content and the topic of today's conversation. If I understand correctly where you want to go with this, keep in mind that when Red approached me with this, he hasn't told me yet what our primary content is today. So I'm in it as much as you guys. So I'm definitely fascinated to find out where we're going to go with this.
Well, thanks. And let me preface, it takes a certain mindset to even conceive of something as simple as what I think I may have discovered. And on a counter argument, I may have not discovered anything. There's quite a paradox with this, and I think as you continue on the spiral, whether it's expanding or contracting, you're faced with more and more paradoxical thoughts. And that itself, to me, is the whole concept of the Creator. It's a complete paradox. And just like in Scripture we have verses, I've been meditating on the word adversary. And if the verse is the word of the Creator, then the adverse is not the word of the Creator.
Now that's good, adverse, and that's what the enemy is called. It translates literally to the adversary, and Shaitan, Satan, is the accuser, right? The one who opposes.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff, and well, hey. Good morning, Informally Hip, and you just lay there with the baby. And again, I want to welcome everybody who's joined us from Les and Liz and Winston, Janet, Mark, again, Nachiketa. Thanks so much for joining us and being a part of this community. This is, again, I look forward to this every week, unless I get, issues. And then it's like, oh my. So it is pretty fascinating stuff, and again, from the conversations, for example, that happened with Cammie, certainly all week. Once she joined me last week, and we started talking about, the probability that, or the possibility anyway, that rocks are sentient, or at least a living kind of being in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. If they grow, they have to live, right?
Right. It's a self-organizing structure, and that is the very definition of life, right? That is a self-organizing structure, and they are. Right? And there's no question that crystals are a self-organizing structure. And so whenever we see these kind of things, this is where I get fascinated. I really go into it. And this is what my research into water has done as well, that it does show signs of memory. Certainly we can look at that, but it does show signs of intelligence and thought. And it responds in different ways to different people.
It's so unique. Every crystal of water in the form of a snowflake is absolutely unique.
It is, yeah, it's absolutely unique. And then again, influenced by frequencies. We keep going back to this idea of frequency and harmonization, right? Resonant frequencies and what's going on there. And that was the topic of Mark Bloom's thing of transposition, is if we push that metaphor a little bit further, and everything is relative to a kind of frequency, then transposition would be a thing. That all the interrelated ratios remain the same, and yet we've changed key, if you will. So fascinating document by Mark Bloom, and he's got, again, some more great stuff that he handed to us, and we've been looking into it. So this is the kind of thing, again, that really just feeds my spirit in trying to look for these things. And again, another scripture is it's the glory of God to hide a thing, and it's the glory of kings to seek them out. Right? So it does feel like a sort of a cosmic Easter egg hunt, if you will, that he has hidden these things, and he didn't intend for us to be dumb about it or uninformed, but they are, secrets of the universe that he intended for us to tease out, and to, as we begin to grow, it takes a certain wisdom, if you will, to understand it. And we see over and over again the negative consequences, the unintended consequences, if you will, of giving people who aren't, who don't have the maturity, technology or information that is not within their ability to handle. And we certainly, I think, can point directly to mankind at this point and see. It seems that we've been given technology that that we did not develop, and therefore it is outside of our wisdom to use properly. And so we misuse those things.
You mentioned wisdom, and I tend to kind of observe and take notes on the mindset of the operation of our collective society, and it's quite dark in my view, but it's just more or less an objective perspective. And I just think, and myself included, in my past, we're all operating under some sort of realm of ignorance at large, complete disgust of knowledge. And there's very, very few of us that want to ascend from that ignorance. Now, I think the powers that at be operate more or less on mindset of rumor. So that would be politicians, mainstream medicine, right? There's nothing really behind these claims and what they practice. It's all just rumor, and it's all implemented with fashion. And then above that, you can get into a mindset of convention, and then ultimately you have wisdom, or more or less a natural lawfulness, in my view.
Yeah, and this is, again, one of the great schisms that occurs between the tradition of man, right, and convention versus the actual truth. And we find that there is a dichotomy or a separation, certainly a gap between those two, in especially things like religion and science and history, that there has been a convention that has been presented to us and with authority. And we're taught to respect authority and to defer to them. And yet, what they're teaching is false. And so we find ourselves in this dichotomy of, do what they say, which is to defer ourselves and our will, if you will, to their decisions, and to not make any questions or any decisions of our own, but defer instead to what they've told us. And every time we go looking deeper and we ignore what they say, we find that what they've told us is not true. They present it as though it's settled science, if you will, and as you say, it's rumor, it's innuendo, it's implication. That you can see this directly with scientists. They set up what's called the scientific method, which is a very narrow, very specific way of empirically proving something. And so you go, okay, that does it empirically proves thing. And then they throw a bunch of stuff in there that is not done that way, but then under the name of science, which is the very definition of pseudoscience. And then you find out that nearly everything that's been presented to us in that fashion is pseudoscience, specifically cosmology, cosmogony, astronomy. It's all pseudoscience. It claims to be science, but does not follow the scientific method at all. In fact, it ignores it and thumbs its nose at the scientific method. But yet they continue to use that paradigm to say, well, but it's proven, right? And yet it's not. And so therein lies the lie.
Definitely worth reiteration. I mean, these are just the big concepts that I like to focus on. And again, I kind of defer to others to get more into the weeds, and find the documents. I have myself, of course, but, moving forward, do the experimentation, do some observation, because I just really enjoy the conceptual kind of a view of it, and everyone has their place. All of us that are kind of speaking out now, we all have our place, and the only reason I came on is that I thought I could contribute value, and I've gotten overwhelming feedback thus far, and I'm happy to do that. I can't help but meditate on these two catchphrases that are out there, and everyone's sick of hearing them, but I kind of alluded a little bit last night on Iron Realm about Black Lives Matter, and I meditated on it, and I contemplate, are they talking about the color of the skin or the quality of the spirit and the soul? And my view is the latter. I think the powers that be absolutely know the environment that we're all living in, the true environment that we're living in, and it's about quality, in my view. They want everyone to have literally a black soul, a black spirit, a lifeless existence, void of quality. What do you think about that?
No, that's perfect. And in fact, black is not really a color; it is the absence of light. Right. And so to be in darkness is to be the absence of light. And I love this in the first couple of the opening of John, the Gospel of John in the Bible. It says, and the light came into the world and darkness perceived it not. It could not understand. And I think that is a beautiful way and very prescient way of describing it. That, again, from my perspective, you have the two sides of the coin are not love and hate, but love and fear. And darkness works in the realm of fear. Why are people afraid of the dark? Right, because it's the unknown and it's fearful. What goes bump in the night? And so darkness cannot perceive love. It messes up the system. And this is what when it comes down to it, this is what people go, what can we do? What can we do to fight back? And I find that we are tempted to want to use the same tools that they use, which is violence and hatred, to fight back. And I think it just contributes to their own, again, set of frequencies, this dissonant kind of chaotic frequencies. And instead, we need the organized pattern is love, right? And positive intentions. We see this, for example, in Dr. Emoto's work with water, right? When you freeze the water and cast intention into it, you can see that it takes on the shape of the intention. So whether that's positive and it creates a beautiful structure, or whether it's negative, it creates dissonance, right? And I think this is just a direct metaphor for being able to visualize what's happening. And so the best way for us to fight back, if you will, is to instead adopt a position and an attitude of love. That is what screws up their system, not hatred, not more of it, of the same, but instead, think of it this way, if they're starting the fire, and instead of throwing gasoline on the fire with more volatility, instead it's water, right?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. And Baldini, I just don't hear it talked about. I'll be blunt, and it's not going to be a popular view, I feel, but I didn't come on with the intention of being popular. And the concept of fighting back, I agree with you. I don't think it's an external. I really don't. I think everything is internal, and it's your mindset. It's your subscription to what is more or less right. In my view, the Most High.
Absolutely agree 100% with that.
I hear people, I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm going to da-da-da-da-da. Just stop with the absolutes. Please stop. Please consider a mindset of subtlety, because we have to live in this realm. We're put here to live here, and it's a realm of deception. It's been delegated to the adversary, to the deceiver. All of that is above us. It's all above us. It's like it's on a need-to-know basis, basically, and we're just supposed to participate in what was given to us in the creation. Now,
so informally hip throws in there.
I'm not saying that we should be Satan worshipers or anything, and I'm not saying that we should willingly just don the mask and take joy in that. No, but consider a mindset of subtlety. And I've done that in just the experiment of just wearing the mask on my chin. Because I've got a face covering, but I can still breathe perfectly. And everyone is so ignorant and in such fear, they don't say anything. They look at the mask and they say, he's got a mask on, but he's stupid. And I don't care. That's not my place. I don't care what they think, because I'm good with me and the Creator on the inside. And I think there's a little bit of camouflage that I get. And you've got to blend in a little bit, or else you're going to be the nail that gets the hammer, in my view.
Well, I think informally hip nailed it when she said, right, that this is a spiritual war. And Nachikita threw up exactly what I was trying to type out at the same time, right, which is a quote from Scripture. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and darkness in high places, or wickedness, is one of the translations says. That this, you cannot use physical weapons against a spiritual opponent. It is a spiritual battle. It's a battle for your soul. And you cannot take a gun or a knife or a sword against against that kind of thing. It goes right through it. It is a spiritual battle, and this must be fought from a place within.
Beautiful.
That's how that's how it must be done.
I see the affirmation here in the chat, and it's cool. I think people are starting to get this. I don't actively and willingly participate in all this stuff that's going on. Okay, the vaccines, the mask, but we've got to operate in a kind of thing of subtlety. For example, when there were riots, and I live kind of in between LA and San Diego, and when the riots were going on, and the restaurants were open more or less, I met an old friend for a meal and some drinks down there in downtown San Diego. And I knew that things were pretty rough. I knew that there were more and more homeless. I knew that there was a lot of anger and aggression. All the stores were boarded up, and I saw it firsthand in one of the nation's largest cities. And I kind of had a feeling, you know what? I'm going to blend in. I'm not going to wear my button-downs and my Izod shirts and all that. No. So I wore more or less my hippie clothes, and I've got, some organic hemp and, cotton linen blends. And they look straight up, like out of scripture, and I even rubbed some dirt on them, to get them a little bit more natured up, if you will. And you would be amazed at how well I blended in. It was like the video game Assassin's Creed, and I could just go through the crowd as if I was completely invisible. And I don't think anything's wrong with that in my view. I just blend in with the environment, and then I could do the work that I feel is more important, right?
Absolutely. And this is, again, I'll throw another scripture out there. You are, be in the world, but not of it. Right. And so, it brings to mind a couple of different things. At one point, earlier in my life, I was very into theater and, acting and that sort of stuff. And I had gone to a talent agency, and I showed them a variety, of different headshots and pictures. And they're like, well, how did you go from this one look to this other look? I'm like, I changed my clothes. And that's always been, true with me. I used to say from banker to biker, right? If I put on the outfit, I can blend right in to that environment and immediately adopt, blend in right with those people, immediately adopt their mannerisms. And again, I've been accused and said, well, you're a chameleon, right? It's like, you know what, from my perspective, the ability to interact with people and to find the least common denominator where you can connect with them is a better way, at least for me, right? It allows me to find a place that I can interact with these people at their level. I don't have to take them into my world. I'm, if I'm going to their house, right, I'm going to adopt their rules or whatever. And so I want to make them comfortable. And for me to, again, speak in a way that they can't understand easily or join in the conversation, I think is, it's kind of rude, I guess, is I do, Nemo, have the Emperor's New Clothes.
I'll give you another couple. I mean, if people can get something out of this, I'll give you two more. So I was just at a service station and fueling up my car with rock oil. And
right.
So I went in and I wanted, just to kind of chat and pay, because I still like to interact, even though if these people at large are space heaters, they take up space and they give off heat, and I still want to interact because I know myself and I need that. Other people need that interaction. So I go in and the cashier asked me, "Hey, would you like the point card, for your fuel purchase?" And I said, no big deal. I don't really use those, but you can have my points. And she replied, no, that would be fraud. That would be theft. And I said, no, it actually wouldn't, because it's a gift. And, I was dressed pretty well. And she's like, what are you, a lawyer or something? And I was like, might as well be. And she looked at me with just this blank stare, like, what? Like mind blown, right? Like, okay, I'm gifting you the points. If they're mine, now they're yours.
They're yours. Yeah. I can give you $5. That's not fraud, right? I mean,
right.
Other than the fact it's a fiat currency and has no value anyway, but circumventing that whole thing. Absolutely. And again, I concur with the idea of I don't need to go I've always said that I'm not very evangelical in my beliefs, in that I have it doesn't serve me any purpose to try to go out and convert or convince people to take my view. And in fact, I'm of the mind that, again, I always say I reserve the right to be completely wrong. Right?
Yeah.
Because I have had to change my views over time based on new information.
You have to.
And as Crow,
or you got to do the same thing over and over and over again with the same bad result.
Yeah,
that's called insanity.
Yeah, you'll never grow because you're stuck in the same place. And that's why I always like the phrase that Crow uses, right? Which is that belief is the enemy of knowing. And that I found for myself, most of my really, really good epiphanal moments came as the result of letting go of previously held beliefs or challenging them, and to allow new information to come in. And that is when I made these discoveries, right? And it allowed me to open up. But I had to adopt the position that I'm right? It's that I've gotten a little bit further, right?
Well, we're on a journey. We're on a hike. And if anybody out there likes hiking in circles, please let me know, because I don't think anybody does. And when you have a hike, you have a different perspective all along the way. And that perspective changes, and it should. And if you're ignorant to that, sorry.
Yeah,
it's not for me.
Exactly. And those who spend a lot of effort defending or punting a particular point of view, again, I have long said that absolute certainty is the imminent domain of frauds and fools, because either they're misled or they're trying to mislead you, because nobody really knows. And I have come to that, again, position, looking at things in depth for a very long period of time, right, is that no one really knows, no matter how smart. Nobody has the complete picture. When we might all have competing or different views, and yet none of those are incorrect. Right? They're all pieces of the puzzle. And so whenever we take a look at this, right, and so we get all these pieces of the puzzle that get dropped on the table, is any of them not a part of the puzzle, is not a part of the whole picture? No, they are part of that picture. But until we get all the pieces, it's up to us to try to put them all together, right? And so we then need to take a look at these things and closely examine and consider by using good discernment which pieces fit and which do not.
I've been thinking also on the "I can't breathe" phrase, and I was meditating and I was thinking about what questions I ask my loved ones. And I think people use "How are you?" Just as a generality, but of a higher quality in my view and more specific, what are you eating? What have you eaten today? What are you thinking? What are your thoughts today? And then also, how are you breathing? Right? It's the intake of our environment all around us, is the soul, is the breath. So it's like, what quality is your breath? Are you being mindful of your breaths? Are you breathing diaphragmically? And then we get this phrase that's put right out in front of us, "I can't breathe." And it's like, yeah, duh. Nobody out there is breathing properly. And you get the shallow, very high, very throat or high chest breaths, and none of it is deep, none of it is calming, none of it is mindful or purposeful. And it's like, what are we doing to ourselves? We've forgotten how to breathe. Babies breathe like a bellows. You see a newborn baby and it's on its back, and that diaphragm is going crazy, and it's below the belly, and that thing is up and down like the bellows fanning a fire. And that baby, everybody knows, is loud, right? Unintended consequences. I mean,
yeah.
So and we've just forgotten how to breathe. We've forgotten how to play. We've forgotten how to think. We've forgotten how to eat. Yeah.
Or taught, not to do it.
Exactly.
Right. So,
Exactly.
I mean, one of the things, for example, I was going to use the metaphor of singing. Every singing coach will tell you to breathe from the diaphragm, right? To not take these upper breaths, but the breath deep down inside. And yet, here's what this idea is, that many people say, "Oh, I can't sing," right? And I have met some people from African tribes who mock that, and they go, "If you can talk, you can sing," right? Everybody can sing, yeah. But we get again, we're taught to defer to authority, right, or to whoever's the best. So you have good singers that you hear on the radio or you hear in your car, and you don't maybe can do it as good as them, and so you go, "Oh, I can't do it." But you can, right? You just haven't trained yourself to do it to a level that maybe could do it as well as them. It's like we were talking yesterday about golf, right? I don't play, like Tiger Woods used to, right? I don't play like that, but it's still it's still enjoyable, right? It's still something that I learned from continually. So it is for me less about even the sport than it is about taking the time. It takes a very long time, better part of a day. Right? It's a very slow process and gives you the opportunity to think while you're standing outside and being in touch with nature. And if you don't take a cart, if you walk between each shot, it gives you time to consider your next approach and how you're going to do it. And again, I mentioned this thing yesterday again about golf is early on playing with guys who were really old and didn't have much range of motion. And I thought I would, easily outshoot them, but their shots were more accurate. Right. And so they were easily better to outscore me because they had a better approach. Right. They didn't have the strength to hit it as far, but my shots were way off in the woods, and it took me several shots to get out where they were right down the middle, not very far, but right down the middle, and every shot get them closer to the hole, which didn't happen for me. And so these metaphors are things that, again, I'm not very good at golf. It's one of the few things that I continue to do that I suck at, right? But the idea being that we can use all these things as a learning experience to increase our capacity for understanding and for discernment and wisdom as we continue on this journey.
Look at Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer. Those guys are up there. And even, when they were in their 60s through 80s, they're still rocking the golf course. And I played golf, and I also enjoy pool and billiards. And I used to play with my grandfather down in the basement. And he was well into his 80s, and I must have been 6 or 7 years old. And I was playing pool like a 6 or 7 year old, right? And most of the time I just grab the balls and just throw them into the holes and not even use the cue at all. But I was amazed at the lack of speed of the shot that he took. And everything was just so calculated, so calm, so subtle, so gentle. And he rocked it. He rocked the pool table.
Yep. And again, they're slow to go, right? And this is... again, another saying in golf, right? Drive for show and putt for dough, right? It's the short game. And again, I mentioned again on the iron realm, so many things that I learned from golf, right? About follow through. It's all in the follow through, and keep your eye on the ball, keep your head down, right? All these things that mean something on the golf course, but translate really well to life. I'm not trying to get anybody involved in golf. That's not my point. But the point is, if you learn from everything, every experience gives you an opportunity to take inventory and to learn from and to better understand the world around you. Because especially in the natural world, these are the places where, again, you're more in tune with the natural things, as we were discussing last night, again, about music and frequency and how they have changed the tonic frequency even of the tuning that we use, right, from 432 to 440 hertz for the A1, which is concert tuning. And it's gone from, again, a natural kind of beauty resonance to a discordant, disharmonious cacophony. Even though they match one another, and again, there's a transposition for you, but it creates dissonance in the resonant frequencies. So it's a very fascinating thing. And again, going back to the idea that not only have we forgotten these tools, but we're told not to. From the very early as a child, I was able to sense unseen presences and even pick up on how to put it, pick up on other people's thoughts. I would play guessing games with my babysitter. And I remember this pretty clearly. I probably wasn't 4 or 5 years old, and I would say, I could guess the word that you're thinking of next, and I hit it like 10 times in a row, and it freaked her out so bad that she wouldn't come back, and my mom got really pissed at me, right? Like, that was our best babysitter, and, just keep your mouth shut. And so I learned pretty early on, right, don't talk about these things because people become very uncomfortable with it and they don't like it. And similarly, I began to be kind of in my youth, teen years, sort of an extrovert and kind of goofy and jokes and stuff because people became very uncomfortable when they realized they were being observed. And so by adopting sort of that behavioral pattern, they would loosen up a little bit because they couldn't imagine that somebody could multitask enough to be sort of goofy and the center of attention and telling jokes all the time and be observed at the same time. And so it gave me a very good kind of a chameleon suit, I suppose, right? So that camouflage that you mentioned, to be able to move easily among them, but still observe what I wanted to observe in a way that they did not realize that they were being observed. Right. So different things. But again, yes, we've all been told not to do those things. We're told to keep those things inside. I think most children have the experience that they can see what adults cannot, not because they physically become unable to, but because they're taught not to until they lose the ability.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned just a little earlier that we can learn from everything. And I was going to ask you that in the form of a yes or no question. You already answered that. And my next question for you is, would you like to hear what I've discovered, more or less?
Absolutely. So let me set my stuff up here. And yes, I'm absolutely ready. I've been waiting with bated breath, as it were, and I've got my delicious cup of coffee here. And so I will now turn it over to Dr. Red Fox.
Well, please don't hold your breath, and please don't do me the disservice of calling me a doctor. Please, there's a heavy price to pay for that title.
Piled higher and deeper, right? So there you go. All right, so I'll now turn it over to Red Fox, and he's going to present what I've been waiting almost 2 weeks now to hear.
Well, thanks, Great Baldini, for allowing me to introduce this concept that was actually delivered to me as a spark of conversation between you and I. And in my view, this is the whole purpose of critical thinking, to alchemically transmute a plurality into a singular existence. And in our conversation, we had discussed the ironic benefit of my being largely without indoctrination through my learning. I think this is a provable quality and a rare one, that a man without any formal education beyond a grade school level would be able to think as critically as I have and to ask questions on the scope that I have. However, I humbly admit I am not alone in my journey for higher mindedness. Anyone here listening is capable of rejecting ignorance, as this is the main idea of this compounded word and the concept in which thereof. So we discussed the premise of learning as an autodidact, being self-taught. The prefix auto meaning self and didact meaning fitted or intended for instruction, pertaining to instruction, from the French didactique, and from Latinized form of Greek didactos meaning apt at teaching, and from didacticos and didactos.
Didactum as well, right, yeah.
And didactum, yeah. So through my experience and development of my natural talents, beginning at my most formidable age, I have recently concluded I am not at all self-taught, as I had believed. I have more truly learned from all, in the most open-minded curiosity and capacity I could hold at any given time. It's a challenge, open-mindedness, as we are emotional, bioelectromagnetic men and women. And if ours is indeed a realm of frequency, then why not pose the question, frequency of what, and of what quality, and with what intent? Included with the intention of achieving higher mindedness, new concepts and new vocabulary must be introduced. We've got to make new words. As quantity identifies a more accurate description, we must also apply a quality and an intent to vocabulary. My current view of nature is it was created with the purpose intended by the Creator, the Most High, Yahweh. The Creator has been described as all-powerful, omnipotent, all-knowing, omniscient, and all-present, omnipresent. As men and women created in the image of the Creator, we possess an amount of the Creator within us. Some refer to as the divine spark, or chi, or life energy, or the subtle wave. This is a direct explanation of the Creator's ability of omnipresence. It is proven, uncovered, verified, and revealed every day that our society of men and women on this earth have been deceived, fooled, pranked, lied to, and tricked. Yet, we men and women willfully choose ignorance and subscribe to the teachings of false doctrine and operate on the basis of rumor. I think there is an overall disgust for higher mindedness and questioning the false reality that is presented to us. Thus, having conceived the concept of learning from all, I give you the term omnididactic to learn from all people, all nature, all tragedy, and all beauty. What is the harm in listening? It is the pure opposite and inverse of ignorance. Over and over again, few of us have overcame the deception and decided to prove through observation and experimentation what has been spoon-fed to us from our most innocent beginnings. Through shared knowledge and open-mindedness, we have discovered a more efficient level of learning, and it is so simply and beautifully described as learning from all. It is fitting that this concept and this term, omnididactic, is brought forth today in the place we call America on what is called Independence Day. Knowing we are the creation of the Most High, we are faced with the paradox that we are all independently special and yet all one, created by his divine spark. We are both one as individuals and the same as brothers and sisters. In my view, we are not individually capable of encompassing all of the Creator's abilities, all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-present, but the whole is observably greater than the sum of its parts. We as men and women cannot physically, spiritually, or soulfully individually possess omniscience, but we can practice by learning from all, omnididactic. As the Tao says, my container has no place for fear because it is full of love. Fear not the information. Fear not the obstacles in your path. Refrain from ignorance and find a higher purpose through learning from all omnididactically. I have simply compounded a prefix and suffix and will not enjoy any material praise for this discovery. It has always been my intention to share with those who have ears to hear. We who question our false reality may be generalized as truthers or the truth movement. I have learned very humbly there is only one truth, and we must journey to become closer to that truth through our experience on earth. Learning from all is perhaps the most humble approach we can conceive of. I am challenged daily to remind myself of humility, and not to teach, but to assist in the most subtle way, as not to interfere with independent thought and collective thought. My only intention is that this term, omnididactic, is of value to you all, collectively and independently, in your journey and in our journey. With all my love and gratitude, that's what I've discovered.
Wow. Yeah, going to give me goosebumps there, Red. I was, as soon as you said omnididactic, I was like, yeah. And then I was like, kind of like panpsychism. I was going to say pandidactic, and I don't like the inference there of pan being, the incarnation of the goat. So I'm going with omnididactic, and what you said there, not only a mouthful, but the implications. I was just immediately going, so when you learn from all, to me, Dad is the all, and I learn from him. Right? And so it is everything, even to learn from, again, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Even seeing evil is educational, right? It is. It shows.
We would not know what we've learned if we did not have the deception to show us. And even yesterday, we were discussing with Cammie about the fundamental, the G, the cornerstone of the frequency of which our realm was created through sound. And Baldini, in the base frequencies, are they omni waves of some sort?
Yes. So here's the way I'll put it. Right, is the harmonic frequencies. So they don't take up the entire gamut, as Cammie would say, but the individual frequencies begin to resonate, and those do run the whole gamut from top to bottom. This is the way I view it, Red, is that again, your thoughts physically manifest into the world around you, and so yes, even like a little rock, you throw it into the pond and it ripples all the way across, right? And so every thought that we have, every action that we make, does run the gamut, as Cammie would say, right, from to the all. So even a single fundamental frequency resonates throughout the entire spectrum. Yes,
exactly. And commercial sound and video, bass is omnidirectional. That's where I was getting at. And if the base, the root, the foundation is the G, the
lowest frequency,
it's more. Yes, it's omnidirectional. It goes everywhere.
Yep.
And so we have to learn from everything omnididactically.
Yes, I agree. The fundamental, and as exactly as he said, the lower frequencies are omnidirectional. They go in every direction in very, very long frequencies, and it takes a lot of energy to push those lower frequencies out. There's again, there is a path to learning in everything, which goes right back to what you said about omnididactic. There is the opportunity to learn from every adventure, even the ones that we don't like very much, even the painful ones. In fact, some of those to me are the most meaningful, or at least the most, I learned the most from them, specifically because you don't want to repeat that, right? I have often heard it said that if you're going through hell, the last thing you want to do is slow down.
Yeah.
or stop, right?
If life gives you demons, make a demonade.
Exactly. Cami, no, this is, again, you're as largely responsible for this conversation as anything, because of what, yes, and it is a type of polarity. And polarity is not necessarily duality. Right. I often hear people talk about duality and say that there must be darkness in order for there to be light. And I don't necessarily buy that there must be evil for there to be good. It does certainly contrast, and you can appreciate good more because there is evil. But good does not require evil to exist. It simply is. Love does not require fear to exist. It simply shows the contrast between them. We can learn from it, right? But
yeah, and I think that's what it is. We're not capable of possessing absolute love as in the Creator does, right? So he's got to give us a term. He's got to give us a description through the inverse so that we can know the difference.
Yeah, and we can see it and understand it. And yes, my experience is that while I cannot be the source of love as the way he is, what I can be is a conduit, right? A channel to receive what he offers and let it flow through me. Exactly.
Would you say transpose instead of receive?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, well, how about transform, like a transformer? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's much what I think the sun is, right? The sun is not itself the source, but it receives, as Cami would say, right, from the black sun, but it receives energy from somewhere else and transforms it into something useful in this world. It's a transformer. It takes energy of one, or a transducer even, right? So much like you have a microphone, right, which takes energy of sound, compression of air, and it transforms it, transduces it from that into electrical energy so that we can manipulate it, run it through all sorts of systems, and then come out the other side in a speaker, right? The same sort of, and it transduces it back into air pressure. So yes, a transducer, a transformer, these are good metaphors for what's happening here. We receive the source elsewhere, right? And this is my position. I know that it is largely said that, the truth is inside you, right? And that you're the source of it all. I think that we're, I don't know how to put it, like a secondary source, that the true source is the Creator. But we are tuned to receive that and then rebroadcast it. And because of that, when we are tuned, if we tune ourselves to receive darkness or chaos, then we rebroadcast that, right? By beholding,
we are programmed to receive.
Exactly. And so whatever we focus on, right, we rebroadcast that. Even if it's our purpose to learn from our enemies and know thy enemy and that sort of stuff, the longer you stay focused on that, you will rebroadcast it because that's what your attention is on. So by beholding, we become changed. So yes, I absolutely think that what you're definitely on to a thing here, certainly in terms of if we keep, yes, I agree, Cami, its polarity is a filter. It's not duality. Exactly. It's it requires a polarity, right, for push-pull, but duality is, to me, a different thing, and that's what I was trying to express. Perhaps I did it poorly, but the premise of duality is that we embrace our own evil, and I simply don't agree with that. I think by embracing evil, we rebroadcast it, and we become a source of it, whereas instead we can embrace our own, how do I put it, brokenness, right? And recognize it for what it is, and allow Dad to recreate that into what he originally intended. That is, again, that's my experience, and that's my view. Again, I always retain the right to be wrong, or to see something in a limited way. Is the best I would put it. Is that I can only see things from a limited perspective, but from the perspective that I have, and from my experience, it is that Dad's entire intention, at least in his dealings with me, is to strip away the parts that he did not create, that I created myself, as mostly unhealthy response mechanisms to a broken world around me. And once he strips those things away, he can replace them with what was originally intended. And the only time it really hurts is when I don't want to let go. And this is exactly what we see with people who are closed-minded and try to defend a worldview, is that they will not let go of a previously held belief, which is
out of fear,
harming them. Exactly, out of fear. Because this is one of the biggest things that happens, I see, when people, if they begin to grasp, right, that the nature of the deception, they do respond in fear, because the implications are that it means that nothing that they knew was right, and they don't know suddenly how to navigate in the world, and that is untenable to them. And so they either have to, again, let go of it and learn to start over, tabula rasa, or they cannot. And many people cannot, especially, again, as I mentioned previously, that if they're looking for external validation, they will never be able to cross that bridge, I think, because no one's going to give them that external validation. The only source of that, to me, is Dad, unless you can unless that's your source of external validation. But most people in that mindset need to see it from other people, and they're simply not going to get confirmation and affirmation from people who are not perfectly dialed in, right? So that's a short-sighted kind of thing, and I see very much a short-sighted view from most people. They only can deal with what's immediately around them and react to it. They cannot thoughtfully respond.
Yeah, it rings true with me. And again, this was my product of our discussion and my meditation. And in a couple of hours, the video that accompanies this is going to go on my channel. And it's just a more qualitative word, in my view, omnididactic. And it's a longer word. I don't intend it to be a catchphrase or anything. It's not as quick as truther, but I think it's an intent and a mindset that I see the seeds of it are being planted and are starting to blossom, that we've got to look at everything, just as we looked at 9/11, just as we looked at flat Earth or whatever, or the globe. Like, let's try and question everything, and for what purpose, of what quality, you know?
Yeah, and then, I mean, I could maybe even add to that, right? So now we're going to get into the German, where we start adding words together to make a bigger, more complex, but more defined word. So you could almost put infinite didactic, right? That you're continually learning.
Yeah.
Right. Semper didactic. Right. Always learning.
Yes.
So these ideas occur to me as you say this, because again, not only omnididactic, but I'm going to learn from everything. But again, sort of infinite didactic, that I'm continually, constantly learning. And that's one of the things that I've come to. Right. Is that the learning never stops. The moment that you think you've got it all, you're done.
Oh, no way.
Right?
No way. It keeps going and
it keeps going and going. And I learned this very early on, and it was the source of depression for me, was that, because again, I was too young to understand, but between the ages of 11 and 13, I was very depressed, because I quickly grasped that anytime you answer a question, you've got 10 more deep unanswered questions that it opens up. Everything becomes fractal. And I realized early on that I would meet my mortal end before I understood anything. But then I understood that that is part of the thing, right? And that the best thing for me was to try to understand everything, because they were all interrelated. And so the better I could understand at least the basics of more things, the better I would understand everything, if that makes sense, because everything is interrelated. And so if you begin to specialize, right, and cut yourself off from interdisciplinary study, then you lose the opportunity to see where they are interrelated. And in part, it is the interrelatedness and interconnectedness of all things that, to me, is part of the answer. right? That is part of the answer that we seek, that it is all one. It is omni, right? That omni is, it is all one. It's all things are made from the one and all point back to the one, and we are part of it. And to harm another person is to harm yourself. To harm another living thing is to harm yourself, because you harm the self-organizing system, right? So it is all part of the same system. Right. I know this is going to get back into panpsychism and that sort of thing, but we are all one. And so and this again comes back to this idea of the one thing that I struggle with within this community is, again, this opprobrium and disdain for those who are still in the blue pill category, right? As though they're stupid or ignorant or bad in some way. Keeping, I mean, it's pretty obvious that we were all deceived at one point. We didn't know what we know now. Certainly it is frustrating when people refuse to look at new information, refuse to make a change. It is frustrating. And yes, many of them are going to give you epithets. They're going to, come back in a very angry, harsh thing because you're challenging their worldview. I just don't think it is helpful to give them back the same in kind. I simply don't. I think it helps the adversary.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't hate anybody. I honestly don't. I had to come to terms with people in my life, even family, and challenge myself to release all the anger and frustration I had with those people. And I have no problem admitting right now I hate absolutely no one. Because
me neither.
My container is more full of love, and there's just no room for it.
Even the controllers, right, who do these horrible things, mostly I kind of feel sorry for them because I feel like they are themselves. Now I can be disgusted by what they do, right, their behavior. I don't love their behavior, but even the adversary himself, there are times when I'm angry with him. There's no doubt, and I despise the things that he does to cause harm. But there's a part of me that still is compassionate. I still feel sorry, right? That because it is, they say hurt people, and therefore there is pain behind that, and I don't wish to see anybody in pain. I have long been opposed to the militarized police state and what it stands for and their means and methods. I get a lot of people who I call the blue tongues, right, who go, "Why do you hate cops?" I'm like, I don't hate individual people, but I do stand against everything that it stands for, right? So we stand in opposition to one another, but I don't hate them, right? I don't hate them personally, and I know that there are many who probably began with the best of intentions. It's just once you're in it for a while, you see what it is. If you're not trying to stop that, then you are part of the problem. So it doesn't create anything positive. I noted that Jenny in chat said she had a dream where someone shot her husband, and she ran up in anger and then looked at her and felt sorry and immediately thought, "What did you do to yourself?" That is so perfect, right? You harm yourself by harming others. You cannot disconnect. We are all part of the same body. You can't, have the hand hate the feet and then start banging on the feet with a hammer because they're not a hand.
Yeah, and I don't have, even the lesser gods, the adversary, and the whole program of gods that are in that, kind of realm. Like, I don't really have an opinion on all that. I'm a one-way road. Me and the Creator, through the bypass that he gave through his son, the Christ. And, all that other stuff, let him deal with that. It's like, not for me, like, but
no,
when people discover things, like we don't live on a globe, and they kind of come to the conclusion, all right, it's got to be bigger than this. It's got to be of a creation, a divine creation. And they realize that and they accept that. They always describe it as the most freeing feeling afterwards, and like true freedom is letting everything go and just, wow, I'm special. I'm a creation, and that's what freedom means to me.
Yes, and again, one of the biggest struggles that I have, frankly, is to accept and love myself, and this is one of the biggest lessons that the Creator needs to, continually works on with me, is this idea of love your neighbor as yourself. Until you can truly accept and love yourself, you find it very difficult to let that love flow through you to others, right?
Absolutely. And the creator would be kind of disappointed in you and say, hey, I made you.
Exactly. That's exactly how he approaches me and says,
you love me. You got to love yourself because I'm you, man.
That's exactly what he says, right? He's like, if you won't do it for yourself, do it for me, because it hurts me when you're mean to this beautiful person that I made. Right.
Yeah.
And I just thought, beautiful is a weird word. I'm a little uncomfortable with that. But again, it's very relevant. Right. And so, but when he took that approach, or they, people always kind of push back on the, oh, hey, wow, thanks, Commercial Sound and Video. This is my first ever super chat. Woo! Oh my gosh, I forgot I even did that.
Let's go down and light up some fireworks.
Woo, doggy! Buy me a cup of coffee. Thank you, Commercial Sound and Video. Extra points and bonus for you. I'm going to find a way to reward you for that. It's very awesome. Thank you so much. I'm just blushing over here. I kind of forgot about that. That's one of the things that really, again, struck me is how tender and compassionate the Creator was, and approaching me and saying, I need you to stop being mean to this creation. It's not your place to do that. And you're hurting me when you do that. So if you won't do it for yourself, do it for me. And that really shook me up, right? And that's been a really profoundly changing experience for me, right? And also, frankly, that I should stand up for myself and not simply let people run over me, right? Because I wouldn't allow anybody to do that to somebody I cared about. Right, I would stand up for them and say, no, that's not right. But I often did allow bad things to happen to me because I wouldn't fight back at all. Because again, it's like, well, who am I? Right? I didn't have a great, often opinion of myself, and I find this is often true as I, hesitate to use the word minister, but I did minister to musicians, for example, in the church, and you find this very strange dichotomy and this conflict between ego and insecurity. Right, especially among musicians and artistic types. One day they think they're the best ever, and the next day, I suck. Right, and it's funny because the book of Psalms, written primarily by David, reflects this very perfectly. One day, I'm on top of the world. Next day, I'm a worm. Yeah, right, yeah. Going back and forth, and it's very interesting how within, specifically within the church community, that they are expected to simply, go, all glory goes to God. Right, they can't even accept a compliment. I mean, if you made some cabinets and somebody said, "Hey, great work on those cabinets," you go, "Hey, thanks. I worked a long time for that." You could probably take that. But somebody said, "Hey, you did a great job playing," and you're like, "All glory to God. I'm just an instrument." I mean, okay, yes, there's something in humility, right? But and not go, "Yeah, I'm the bomb," right? That's ego and arrogance. But the inability to simply just accept it and take those compliments. But I find again, this is so true even outside that context, but with musicians and artists overall, again, we're taught that that's not a material thing. Again, even my mom, when I got a scholarship to law school through the military, and I turned it down to be a musician. Right, and my dad had been in the military; he was in the Air Force and taught jet engine maintenance. My mom had been in a professional music group, and so I thought my mom would understand, and my dad wouldn't. It was quite the opposite. My mom's like, "Oh, honey, that's just a hobby." Right, you need a real job, and so I did one of those horrible things. I took a vow, like everybody I've ever known has done this as a youth. As an angry youth, they've taken a vow, and their entire adult life revolves around a dumb decision made by an angry youth. Right, most of it's I'll never do this, or I'll never be like that, or I'll never do this, and it affects them. For me, it was I'll always make a living from this industry, and I have, but it's been feast or famine. Right. Yeah. But again, ultimately, we're taught, right, that the arts, which is some of the biggest compliments and growth of mankind, has been rejected as not a serious pursuit.
It's going to get worse and worse. Look at the art that we have. It's a banana duct taped to the wall. It's a urinal.
Or piss in a jar with a cross. Yeah, okay, that's art, right?
Oh, man.
I mean, and this is because it's become fashionable to mock that, right? To make fun of that thing, and which to me just tells me it's the beast. So again, ultimately, I think all that to kind of circle back around here is the ability to accept, because acceptance even comes before love. You cannot truly accept love until you feel accepted by that person. And so we must accept even ourselves as we are. Understand that, yes, we do have limitations. Yes, we have been harmed. And that may not be your fault. You were not responsible for that. But you are responsible for what to do with the information. And you are responsible for how to respond to that and to do something to change it, to break those chains of curses that have been put upon you, to allow that harm to stop with you and not to continue the pattern of harming others. Right? Where, again, hurt people, and it's up to you to change that. So until you can begin to accept yourself, and to me, again, I can't speak for anybody else, but to me, that was only found in the relationship that I had with my Creator. That was the only one who I trusted enough, I guess, who showed me consistently over time that their love was unconditional, and that they wanted me to accept myself, and so I did.
And when I found the Creator and I discovered that I'm special and we don't live on a spinning ball spiraling through space, et cetera, we're not random, I was like, wow, if this is his creation and I'm his creation, then the entire natural environment around me is his creation, and I should be operating in that environment.
Absolutely.
Which means eating organically, the food that you grow in accordance to the season and the local geography. That means breathing his clean air. That means not subscribing to the material realm, false idolatry, all that kind of stuff. And Z-Proxy mentioned jet engines.
Yeah.
So do they fly on air or what? And let me say, I said last night, I think it was a couple days with Nachiketa, I said, bees don't fly, they resonate.
Yeah.
And birds don't fly, they're flown. Fish don't swim, they're swum. It's because they know intuitively what their natural environment is, and they operate within that natural environment.
And Cammie is trying to sneak around the corner, asking about blue or green eyes and red hair. Hey, you just hit on the thing Mark tossed over the wall, and we're trying to look into. That's a big one. We're going to dig deep into that. So stand by for that. We're going to deep get into that.
Go ahead, Baldini. Tell them our commonality between the three of us.
Well, so in like a redheaded stepchild, without knowing this, so Mark asked these questions about where are all the redheads, right? They represent about 1% to 2% of the population, and yet they appear all through history, except for this crazed, mixed up, broken history that they've given us. But they appear everywhere in legends, and usually as leaders or very powerful people. So without knowing, it turns out that Mark has red hair. My friend Red Fox is, red. He's a ginger, and as it turns out, although I am very blonde, when I was a youth, I used to get what I call red brogues, and that would be very red, very thick hairs that would show up and grow like crazy. I mean, like literally they could appear overnight. My beard is red, my mom's a redhead, and I have blue-green eyes that change with my emotions. They have a very strange yellow, I'm giving away a lot here, but I have a very strange yellow sunflower pattern in the middle of my iris, and as it expands and contracts on its own, it changes my eye color from gray to blue to green, just sort of depending on kind of a combination of my emotions, my vibe, what I'm wearing, the amount of light. It's a very strange thing, but all three of us have that component. It's a very interesting thing that we stumbled upon this without knowing.
And I have green eyes as well, mostly. There's not much variance within the season or the light. They're mainly green all the time with the red hair.
Yeah. So we're going to get into this, and again, part of the awakening the Awakening Project is as I move into phase 2 and get to these questions, that's going to be part of it. Not only a blood type and RH factor, and I'm working a little bit. I'm going to start picking Cammie's brain again on that, because she's very one of the most well-versed people I know outside the scientific and academic community with genetics and what progressive and regressive genes can do. So get into that with her as well. But that is part of what we're going to look at, as well as some of these other aspects of having to do with proclivity toward the arts and some other aspects. We're going to be looking more closely at those elements as we get into trying to better understand why some people awaken and why some do not. Again, we know that it has to do very much with the ability to resist the power of suggestion, that we know that follows the standard Pareto curve of 80-20, that 20% of the population is very susceptible to the power of suggestion or hypnosis, that 20% is not or has a strong resistance to it, and the other 60% lies along a standard bell curve distribution. But they have been using all kinds of mechanisms, from literally using media like television. The flicker rate is specifically designed to throw you into an alpha brainwave state. It literally hypnotizes you within 60 seconds of watching a screen. It puts you into an alpha brainwave state and makes you very suggestible. And then they use things like neuro-linguistic programming, right? When you're listening to the news, they have a particular cadence, right, that they get into to put you into a hypnotic trance. So we know that these are elements of it, and we know that these are components, and we see the results of this when people push back. For example, you mention a flat Earth, they go crazy. They don't just go, "No, that sounds weird," right? They get super angry, right? That's not a natural response. That is a post-hypnotic suggestion to create cognitive dissonance. So it is some of these elements that I noticed early on that got me into this project, and the deeper we get in, the more I'm finding that there are these tangent elements that we can identify. Now, not everybody matches one pattern, but there are specific things that we can point to, and this is something that I want to look at more deeply. Is there is, like most things, they have tried to hide our history from us, as well as, again, who we are. And some of that has to do with this very strange element of ruddy hair and these, blue to green eyes is different than much of the population. And so we're going to dig more deeply into that without going too deep. We're not being hypnotized.
Be awesome.
I think
Mark Bloom, he's told me he's written maybe 6 novels worth of stuff from his thoughts. And, if we can be his voice, more or less, that's great. For me, that's what it's all about, is this collaboration, and also with Janet and Megsy especially. Oh, I
got to give a shout out, especially to Captain Nemo. I was going to mention this on Iron Realm yesterday when I heard, I didn't realize that I wasn't the only person he's sending these voice notes to, right? And I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, Nemo is doing a podcast in reverse. Instead of broadcasting to a whole bunch of people, he's sending out individual notes to everybody. Like, how crazy is that? Not crazy in a bad way, but how amazing he's doing these very specific notes to people. It's pretty nutty, and I love that. Thank you for your efforts, Nemo. It's been very helpful to me, and yes, you know what I'm doing. So you know what I'm doing with that. But I will say that again, I noticed that Cammie says we're not hypnotized. I think we've awoken from it. I would say that I showed some signs of post-hypnotic suggestion. I think that at one point I believed in the story that was told about our cosmology and didn't question it. And it took me a moment to break out of it. So I had to, snap out of it. That had to happen. We have awoken from it. And when that happens, suddenly, again, you begin to see much more of everything. And the more you dig into it, the more it becomes, increasingly difficult for their Jedi mind tricks to work on you. Right? These are not the droids you're looking for. And you laugh at them and go, Well,
I know.
it's right there in front of you, right? So it's very amazing. Once you begin to wake up and go through this process, right? Even some of those who don't know all the details of it, they certainly see that. Again, as Crow would say, there's something burning in the kitchen. They know that it doesn't smell right, and they're able to recognize it. And so this is a powerful thing, and this is what I want to try to accomplish, is to come up with some sort of cult deprogramming thing that we can break the hypnotic spell from people if they meet the criteria of being possibly able to. Right, they have to meet some criteria to make it more likely. But if we can get their brain working just enough to break that initial spell, right, it's going to be like Neo waking up and going, "What the hell?"
Mm-hmm. Don't even have to dodge bullets anymore.
Right.
So, Baldini, you want to kind of switch gears from the spiritual realm to more or less the materialistic realm, and talk about the complete absence of material freedom, and
okay,
put the dumb in freedom, and
I would say this: I don't think there is a disconnect between them. I mean,
no.
And here's the way I'd put it. Right, is that, and you could do this with multi-dimensions. 4 dimensions is to 3 dimensions as 3 is to 2. So you can easily picture that by, if you shine a light on a solid 3-dimensional object, what you'll see is a shadow, a 2-dimensional representation of it, probably skewed a little bit, right, depending on the angle of the light. But it is a fair representation of a shadow. It's a 2-dimensional representation of the 3-dimensional object. And I think that this is, in many ways, consistent with what we see with this multidimensional reality, is that what we are experiencing is a 3-dimensional aspect of a multidimensional, or a shadow, right? We are in ways shadow. So I don't think they're disconnected, but certainly we can approach what we experience in the tangible world around us as different from the strictly esoteric or spiritual. Absolutely.
Yeah. We're living in an open grid prison of like free range chickens. But there are boundaries to it, as Cami points out. There are boundaries.
There are boundaries to it. Certainly, right? The electromagnetic field that surrounds us. There are boundaries, but for the most part, again, as Mark Sargent said, right, this open range chicken thing, right? If you move the fence so far away that you can't see it, nobody thinks about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You don't test the boundaries, right? Well, I learned recently, more or less, I think, a more accurate origin and meaning of the word America, and this whole Amerigo Vespucci stuff. Like, it always kind of smelled fishy to me. And then I learned what the Mayan culture called Amaruca, which is the plumed serpent.
Yep.
And I was looking at images of the Great Seal of our country, and when you look at it, the eagle is really thin, and I was kind of thinking it was maybe a phoenix or some sort of a hawk, or kind of a thinner bird, but I think they put a shield in front of that bird because it would hide the actual serpent part of it, just as the Masonic apron covers the snake or the phallus.
So Quetzalcoatl or whatever, the winged serpent from
Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah. Well, I think that makes a lot more sense than Amerigo Vespucci, who never even came, right? Why would they name all of it? North and South America after that? No, I absolutely agree with that. And to my view, and again, I know you wanted to get into the more material and less esoteric, but I'm going to throw this out, right, is that when you look at the book of Revelation specifically, it speaks of Mystery Babylon. Right, and the way that it says it, right, is this the whore on the beast. It says what's written on her head. Some translations say is a mystery, and then it starts with Babylon. But if you read it the way the original Greek, it says what's written on her head is Mystery Babylon, and this is specific to the Babylonian mystery religions. Right, and from my perspective, what happened in the United States. Right, the United States of America is very specifically an attempt to rebuild, Atlantis. right? It's to bring back and the beast that once was, that is no longer, but is coming again. Again, these things are very put out in Revelation. It does seem that this is, in my perspective, right? I know that many people correlate the Whore of Babylon with the Catholic Church, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I get that, but it does seem to me that when they talk about the great city, and they combine that with Mystery Babylon, and Babylon is fallen. I think it may have to do with what they intended to do here. And from my observation, where I'm at right now, is that the nation that you and I both live in was specifically designed to bring about this one world system. It was the catalyst. We never did, in my opinion, become, here we are on July 4th, our independence from Great Britain. I don't think we ever were. I think if you look at the circumstances surrounding what we're told about how that happened, it's preposterous that the most powerful military nation in the world would suddenly just give up a very prosperous and promising set of colonies and just say, yeah, okay, you guys take it. That's fine.
What's funny? It wasn't even the majority of people in the colonies that wanted to object and break away from Britain. It was a very small percentage.
Yeah, exactly. Platus, yeah, I think that's possible. All right, it is a bigger system, but I think this is the great city that's mentioned specifically, for example, in Revelation 11, I think is, again, right now that's where I'm at. I'm not saying that's absolutely true. I'm just saying that's where I'm at right now, and how I'm looking at it is that if I step back and look at what the founding fathers did, what we're told that they did, but when you look at who they are and what they believed, it does seem to me, for example, that the Constitution was written as a beautiful elucidation of what our rights are, and then they made it the carrot that's just out of reach. So that, again, the best slave is a slave that doesn't know he's a slave.
The best slave is one that thinks
he's
the
free.
Slave is the people. We're not the people. They are the people.
Right, but yes, and so we're the chattel, right?
Yeah, yes.
But they've made us slaves by making us believe, they've made us mental slaves, right? So we believe we're free falsely, and so we'll defend our prison guards to the end. Right, this is the most insidious kind of Stockholm syndrome, that we are defending our captors.
Yeah,
by bowing
Have you ever
down.
heard of a feminine deity known as Justitia?
Justitia. Well, no, it goes to gestation. I get that, but I'm not familiar with
J-U, justice.
Oh, Justitia. Okay, but is that the representation of justice? The standing there with the justice with the scales? Is that the embodiment of it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and there's a sister of her. I mean, it's all in this realm of deception, right? Under the adversary, she has a sister, and her name is Liberty.
Which is the Statue of Liberty, which actually is a guy. If you look at that, it was originally, the artist originally tried to put it in Egypt as a male figure, and they didn't want it. So he just called it something else and got Freemasons in the United States to pay for it.
Yeah, hermaphroditic, actually, in my view, the same as the adversary.
Yes. And Aphroditic, but also hermaphroditic.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and the torch that's being held is the torch of illumination, which is the Illuminati, right? And the chains, look, it's got chains on its feet. Interesting, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't show liberty to me. It's not a broken chain.
Yeah, it's all the same program, and they're just icons of that program, and that's who the elites worship, more specifically. And it's right out in plain sight, but it's hidden from us, is the female deity Justitia. And she's very cruel. Yeah. Very cruel, but there's... they say justice is blind, right?
Right.
They were referring to the censorship because they're not going to show us all of it.
Yeah, and they've blinded us to it, right?
And they've programmed us to scream out loud, "Give us justice! Give us justice!"
And, yes, and I have frequently said we don't have a justice system; we have a legal system. There is no justice in our system; it is a legal system. And again, as I look at all this and take a closer look, and I see that Bill Cooper has been mentioned in the chat. Yeah, I mean, whatever you think of Bill Cooper, just like many people, he put a lot of truth out there. And the stuff that's not truth, was it because he was deceived or because he intended to deceive? I don't know, but it doesn't invalidate the 90% of what he said that was absolutely straight on true. In the same way that gay frog dude.
Yeah.
We know. I mean, he has every mark and sound. Every he's got the fingerprints all over him of being controlled opposition. Does that mean that the whole prison planet thing isn't true? No, of course it is, right? Except for the planet. So again, no trap works without there being bait in it. Right? It doesn't work if there's not some truth in it. So many people put out a great deal of truth, and yet their intention is to mislead. And this is where I always come back to discernment. Eat the meat, take away the bones, and find what resonates with you. And again, the best way to do that is to stay in touch with your Creator, who will tell you, I believe, what is true and what is not true. If anyone lacks wisdom, let them ask. Right? That's it.
Yeah, and moreover, Bill Cooper allegedly departed this earth. Whether he did or not, but I don't have any problem subscribing to, if he was still alive, he'd still be putting stuff out, and I think he was killed off, and it was pretty early, and there's just a lot of stuff that wasn't made public or released on CIA websites, for example. When he was still alive. There's a lot of documents I have that came out in 2003 that totally fill in the cracks of some of the stuff that he was speculating on.
Yep, I agree. So again, I don't know the full story there. I don't claim to know. And frankly, it doesn't matter to me. Right?
No, it doesn't matter.
I take the information as it is and wish there was more. And that's true with many things. I wish there was more information about the nature of the earth. But I think that some of us are looking for it, right? Like Cammie, right? She's looking for the answers, and we don't know for sure, but we're looking, and we have to test it against what we do know, right? And so we can test all things, right? And again, that's another scripture. Test all things, test every spirit to see whether it comports with what you know to be true or not. And again, this is where I cannot enough encourage people to develop their own sense of understanding, right, and their own discernment. Because if you count on me, or you count on Red or Crow or Jason or anybody, we're going to be wrong, right? We're going to be mistaken, whether we intend to be or not. We're going to be mistaken. And as I've always said, if you look up to me and you got to know me, I'm sure you'd like me, but you might be disappointed to find out I'm a regular guy, right? I'm just a guy, but I'm very curious, right? And I'm not afraid to say what I think. I am sometimes hesitant to tell other people what they should think. I don't think that's my job. But I'll tell you what I think and how I got there, and I'm okay with that. And you can do with it what you want to. That's fine. But I strongly encourage people to look for themselves and to develop their own sense of discernment, because I think that's the only way you're not going to be deceived. That's the whole
mindset, I think. And like Globebuster says, he was just thinking of omnididactic, and he's like, how about inductive autodidacticism? And yeah, it's longer, but Globebusters, that's the whole message. This is the whole mindset. If we can kind of more or less accept this higher quality, of open-mindedness and learning from all, that's the whole point. Yeah.
And I would even go and say abductive, because the abductive is a combination of deductive and inductive, right? So you can then use the deductive process, which is to find the things that cannot be true and toss those out, and the inductive process by using inference to say what comports to what we already know and make some assumptions about that. And so you combine those into an abductive process, sure. And again, I'll go back to, Omni, learning from everything, from every potential possible source, and running, as Cammie would say, the gamut. Right? And test it and see if it resonates. And those things, as you begin to more fully and better exercise your ability to resonate with nature instead of the artificial construct that's been put upon us, then you'll be able to more easily tell whether or not those things resonate positively with the natural world or with the unnatural world and with the chaos. And to me, that's going to be largely, again, how we tell the difference, right? How we tell the difference between what is true and what is not, because this is kind of, again, my observation is what they've done is made people so confused by lying about everything, not just some things, but everything, where people don't have any foundation. They don't know where they're standing. They don't know who they are, where they came from, where we are, right? They know nothing. And so when you begin to tell them the truth, it becomes the craziest thing possible, because it's everything upside down. Well, that's to me exactly what they had intended. Everything is upside down, and so it pulls the rug right out from underneath you, where you don't have a leg to stand on, and you got to start over. Well, I think that's beautiful, tabula rasa, right? You start with a clean slate, and this is what I think is why I say, the higher the education, the deeper the indoctrination, because they're unable, many of them, to do that. They're unable to let go of the things that give them authority. Right, and they like that position of authority, and so they cannot let that go and not defend it, because that's what gives them power, and they don't want to lose that power. Right? They don't want to. They don't want to lose it.
So funny with learning. I've actually got an entire 3 terabyte hard drive that's just for my trash, because I might not accept something right now, but I don't want to completely disregard it. It might have value in the future. So I don't empty the trash can. I just drag everything into this other hard drive that's the trash, because you never know. It might be true in the future.
Maybe it'll be recycling, right? Instead of trash, it's recycling. I'll bring it back another time. Exactly. And I'm with Nachikita on this one. That amazed with the people that we've come in touch with. Blessed to be here with everyone, and brilliant and amazing. Agreed. And not just being bright, but being good people, right? I have found this is one of the first things that I caught when I started getting respondents to the Awakening Project, was the quality of people and how transparent and how honest and ethical people are, and the willingness to follow truth wherever it led and whatever the cost. These are the kind of people that I want to be involved with, and so it's not just one or two. These are people that I would choose to be good friends with, but it's an entire community, right, of people who are really high quality, and again, quality over quantity every time. So the quality of people that we're drawing together and being drawn toward one another is phenomenal. And again, I don't think by accident. I have seen that the universe has, and Dad has, amazing, incredible, and perfect timing, because he's outside of time. So seeing everything come together in one place is not a trick, right? It's not a joke. It's something that we should take very seriously and understand that for such a time as this, right? It's all happening now, and I think that from what we see around us, as the world becomes darker and more chaotic, we become stronger and more harmonic, right? In our own thoughts. We're getting closer to the truth and getting closer and closer together. I don't think that's an accident or a coincidence.
That's beautiful. And like myself, I was thinking about freedom and if I was going to celebrate anything today. And I'll tell you what, I'm not even going to celebrate religious freedom. You know why? Because I practice religion. I brush my teeth 3 times a day religiously. That's what religion means to me. You know what I celebrate today is spiritual freedom. Spiritual freedom. No religion, but my spirituality with the Creator. That's what I'm going to celebrate today.
Yeah, and for me, it's going to be personal freedom and freedom of thought. This week, several times, I came across it, and just, I look for jokes everywhere. I think, the reason angels can fly is because they take themselves so lightly. Right? Now, the jokes don't get any better. But the idea of having some levity and not taking being serious, but not taking yourself too seriously. And this idea that when I hear, so what is hate speech? And I just define it as speech that the establishment hates. It's not that it's hateful toward others. It's what they hate. And they're trying to shut down any kind of conversation, right, that is in opposition or even questions their narrative. Well, as I have often said, that truth fears, right, neither investigation or exposition, but it delights in the spotlight of inquiry. And
I can't believe I don't have any strikes on my channel yet. It's crazy, I think.
Neither me, right? And I mean, the very first podcast that I tried to do was I pre-recorded it, and I was just going to upload it. And every time it would get stopped, right? It would never let me continue. So I just went, okay, drop back 5 yards and punt. I'm just going to do it live. And I've continued to do that because I think that that's part of the way around it. They can't capture all of it. And it's not that I edit myself or don't talk about some of the things like FF or 9 and 11s or I don't censor that stuff, and I don't prevent myself from saying it, but that's not my point. I'm not about trying to convince anybody of those things, right? It is simply about encouraging the kind of internal growth and connecting to nature and connecting to the Creator and connecting to one another. And this, to me, serves to show that love is outside of their algorithm. It just doesn't work. And they light came into the darkness, and darkness perceived it not. Right. So as long as we continue with that, I think they will, ultimately try to shut us down completely. But until then, I think, again, still spirit calls to spirit and deep unto deep. And even without the benefit of the internet or cell phones, we would still be drawn to one another. We would know. I can tell, but right now we can tell from masks. Right? When you go outside, you can tell who is submitting and who is not, and especially those who get angry that you're not wearing a mask. What are you doing? The mask holes. I just, and again, I laugh. I don't even get, and I don't laugh at them in mockery. I just go, oh, come on, right? That's just silly. It just doesn't affect me.
Like, sorry, no, not going to ruin my day. Just, sucks for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that. How sad, right? That you can't see it another way. It doesn't bother me. I mean, it has annoyed me a couple of times when people come off angry, right? You can't help but kind of feel like it kind of makes me bristle a little bit. But I have been fortunate enough to be disciplined not to respond in like kind, because I don't think it helps. I just don't think that contributing to the kind of chaos and the kind of negativity that is being foisted and fueled by the system is helpful. It simply helps them. Yeah,
well, it's an energy farm. Silent weapons for quiet wars.
Yep.
That's 1-to-1. I mean, they've got engineering schematics that illustrate all this stuff, inputs and outputs, and they are energy vampires.
Yep,
That's
and amplifiers, right? And so they use these events to amplify and try to get as many as they can on the same page. And that's exactly what I think you'll find these riots were, right? And the demonstrations is an amplification stage. Right, it brings a bunch of people together and amplifies this chaos and this dissonance and darkness. And I just don't want to contribute to that, even by pushing back against them. It just it's the polarity that they want. Right, they want a polar opposite to that, and hate just generates more hate. And it is, again, from my perspective, that love negates that. And so whenever you begin to put out waves, right? So in wave theory, when you have a wave that's out there, if you get one that's out of phase with it, 180 degrees out of phase, it will cancel the other one out entirely, right? Create a node of silence. And so this is what I think happens. And I have, seen even for example, with music, I have closed my eyes and seen that it's putting out not just sound waves, but intention waves. At the time I likened it to a spiritual hand grenade, right? It caused this explosion that rippled all the way, outward from it as a source, that the intention was so powerful that it literally affected what was happening around it. And that was an eye-opening moment, and way before I came to any of these things with resonance and frequency and dynamics and harmony and polarity, long before that. So it is both intensely personal, but there's also a kind of connectedness to it that I think that if we can get closer to being on the same, I don't think necessarily the same page with beliefs, but in the same resonance frequency with each other, that again we can amplify what's happening with the awakening process and get both more people to awaken and certainly dampen and mitigate some of the powers of darkness.
I'd like to have a music chat with you in the future and really go into that just specifically, and then also just kind of brainstorm and throw around playfully what the voice of God would actually sound like, and kind of research that and apply what we know about music and frequency to that. I've got a lot of ideas on that, and it's just fun. And I don't think there's any blasphemy in there or anything.
I don't think there's any harm to it.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there are some things again that I don't have any problem speculating, as long as I start out with sort of the caveat that it's just speculation. We're just spitballing a bit. I'm not going to claim that this is how it is and this is true, but I can certainly there's a bunch of scripture that talks about it. What that is, and I have my own experience I could throw in there and what that looks like. So yes, I'm fascinated by that, and certainly again, as Wayne McCroy and I did the very first episode of Sola Scriptura, we went through the creation process, and I've always loved the idea that it was spoken into existence, not just thought, or didn't wave a magic wand or build it, but he spoke it into existence. And there are some traditions that say that he sang it into existence, and that is also in the book of Job. Were you there when the morning stars sang for joy at the first day? And I love that. He sometimes has a quirky sense of humor. Yeah. I mean, I've always said, take a look at, the duck-billed platypus and me, right? This is not a sign of a serious deity. This is not the work of a serious deity. I am certainly not. I'm a very kooky and unique individual, and I think.
Hey, buddy, remember to love yourself, man.
No, that's not self-deprecating. It's just like I'm a wacky character and full of all kinds of different, dichotomies and sort of enigmas. But I think that's that is kind of expressive of who he is, a sense of humor, right? And that and I love, again, there's another phrase in Scripture that says, when we come to him, he dances over us. I mean, can you imagine thinking about the Creator dancing and laughing and singing with joy, just sheer joy?
Pretty cool.
It blows my mind when I think of who he is and what I know him to be from my experience. The idea that he dances with joy over his children is pretty remarkable.
Have you also maybe considered us doing some sort of like American Bandstand type format where we collect quite a few, maybe 8 or 10 music videos from the kind of flat earth-ish community, and we could kind of talk about them a little bit and maybe give some good constructive criticism and just kind of make a show about that of all the music that's out there?
Well, I mean, I think we can display it. I don't want to, criticize it or anything, because I mean, it's although I have worked in the entertainment industry for a long time, I could probably individually, quietly give pointers to people if they wanted to do.
All positive.
Yeah, I mean, but certainly I enjoy it. I would like to see musical collaboration, although, as I research and try to figure out a way to do it in real time, it can't be done technologically. Just because you can't do it in real time, but we can. I've started to look at a couple of different things, and for example, try to get like Rose 777 and Joe Ray, who I worked with as a songwriting partner a long time ago. There's a app out there. It's online in the cloud called BandLab, and it allows you to collaborate. It's not in real time, but you can start a track and have everybody contribute, and you don't have to pass files back and forth. It's kept there on the same platform, and so that may be something that we could look at, or something like that. I would love to see musical collaboration between people like Flat Earth Man, or Conspiracy Music Guru, a bunch of different people who have some, Jason Lindgren's a musician, Crow is a musician. So there's a lot of people in the community that have varying levels of musical adeptness and play different instruments and sing. I would love to see us come together, and certainly if we get to all be in the same space at one time, wouldn't that be great? I'm very much looking forward to that.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely cool.
Well, let's see. As we're coming now to approaching the top of the second hour, Sue Finelli did write a song, and I'm planning to record that once I get my audio issues worked out. Oh my God, the start of this morning. And thanks for everybody for making the jump over. I don't even know what's going on. Some crazy software issue. I added some software components, and they worked, and then they didn't work, and who knows what's going on. I'll get it all figured out, I'm sure. But I did want to again thank everybody for their help in getting there. I dropped a big bunch of cash this week on a new audio editor, a digital audio workstation that is one of the best ones you can get. It has a better mix engine than does Pro Tools, which is one of the industry standards. It's actually Nuendo, which is made by Steinberg, and they've always had a really dominant mix engine, does all kinds of stuff, and it gives me a lot of flexibility, but it was costly. So I'm investing in this stuff really for you guys, and I'm not waiting for people to donate. I'm just doing it and saying, hey, if you can help out, that'd be super great. My wife would appreciate it. I know, and she was asking me last night, so how much do you have invested in this so far? I'm like, a couple grand. And she's like, how much have you collected? I'm like, about $500. So she's on board with it. She loves that it is an outlet for me, and it's very cathartic, and it's something that makes me feel fulfilled. So if I don't get another penny, I'll be fine with it. But
I definitely saw value in what you were doing and your needs, and I was very, very happy, and I instantly contributed.
I love that.
So.
Yeah, and I have a couple more people again to thank. In fact, what I should do is make a video and put it up. People have asked about Patreon, so I do have a Patreon account. I just haven't launched it. There are some other ways to contribute, such as PayPal. You can do that. There's a Venmo account. There's a few ways to do it if you want to. And again, I'm not twisting anybody's arm. I'm not trying to take anybody's money. But if you want to contribute, the better I can do it. I think the further we can get the reach going. And I'm trying to come up with a way where I can devote more time to this. I'm already putting about 50, 60 hours a week into my regular job, and then this has increased. Now I do 7 streams a week, so it's now come up to about almost 20 hours here. So it's a significant investment in time that my wife is a Subscribe Star. I'll look into that, Les. I'll take a look at that. I know some people have a problem with the Patreon thing. I'm just trying to make it easy, right, for stuff that people are familiar with. But again, and some people have donated directly to my post office box, right? So I'll let you know about that. I mean, I'll just put that up here. If you just want to send me just a note or something, I don't care. It's not about the money. A couple of people only send a couple of bucks or $5. It's awesome. Like one of them was not even I'm unemployed, but I want to give more. I'm like, oh my God, that. It literally brought me to tears. I mean, some people have contributed $100 or more, and that's amazing too. Again, it's just if you want to contribute, that's awesome. If you just want to, if you contribute just by being here, that's awesome too. And I love it. So. Anyway, there's P.O. Box 2248, Lynnwood, Washington, 98036. Again, you can reach me at unintended.consequences. Hopefully I don't misspell it because sometimes I do. Consequences3@gmail.com. I'll put Red Fox's contact info as much as he wants to offer in the...
Yeah, the email's good. That's okay. All good.
Yep, put that in the... I'll put it in the...
I'm looking for guests. I enjoy hosting on my channel. And it's growing, and I am very, very late Monday night hosting Seven Ravenwolf, and she is a really, really interesting, very, very brilliant lady from Queensland, Australia, and she's going to come on and tell her story, and so that'll be good. Oh. And then I think more or less in the middle of what we call July, Beth Martins will be making a stop, but I'm having trouble locating people that want to speak out. Everyone is very shy, and it comes a time for your own voice. But if you'd like to do a stream with me, reach out. That'd be great.
Yeah, and if you haven't yet, make sure to hit Red's channel, Red Fox channel on YouTube. Subscribe to that. I'll put the stuff in the description. I have to wait until it processes if I don't do it beforehand, and I had to, of course, create this stream from the other one. So it's just a crazy start this morning, and I'll try to get that worked out so we don't have to deal with all that again. But again, thanks to everybody for coming and joining along with us this morning. You're the reason I do this, and I genuinely love you guys. And since you mentioned yeah, I do too, Sue. Spell unintended consequences wrong. And for some reason, the auto corrupt wants to go crazy with that. You mentioned you're having a conversation late at night with somebody in Australia, and I am too tonight. It's 18 hours difference to Western Australia, so it's difficult to put together. But having a guest for next week's show that we're going to have to record in advance, so I'm doing that tonight. And then, of course, tomorrow I have the morning stream at 7 a.m. Pacific and 10 a.m. Eastern, which is Ancient Wisdom for Modern World. Just going to go through a little bit of that. And then tomorrow night, Wayne McCroy joins me again for episode 3, the third full episode of Sola Scriptura. So join us if you're into that. Otherwise, you can join Rose 777 and I on Tuesday and Thursday mornings early, 6 a.m. Pacific and 9 a.m. Eastern time for the Poppycock Report, where we're just kind of making fun of everything. So that's a lot of fun. So don't forget to join us there. Make sure to subscribe to Red Fox's channel and contact him if you want to speak out. There are a number of ways to do that, and we want to hear your voice, right? So not just us, the same, usual suspects on this end. I appreciate that you guys like to listen to us pontificate and go through these items, but we love to hear your voices as well. So I know Nachikita has joined both Red and myself. Mark is contributing with his written documents, and Nemo contributes with his prescient and informative voice greetings. But if you guys want to join in the conversation as well, you can certainly contact myself, Red Fox. Get involved, and if you, even if you just have a small segment, and if you feel shy and uncomfortable about joining in a live conversation, we can figure out a way to get your voice heard. So we definitely want to get more voices involved in this community. And again, I want to hear more of your awakening stories and how did you get here? How did you come here? Right? I'm fascinated by the fact that we all started at very different beginning points, and yet we're all coming up in the same area, and we're all showing up in the same parking lot from all over the world. Like, how does that happen? And again, from my perspective, it is that we are all seeking after truth, and truth it eventually and inevitably leads us to a place that's very close to one another. And I think that means that we're coming close, right? And this is the perfect time. Brian Jackson, yes, more of a Q&A, sure. And we've talked a little bit previously, Brian and I, and we're going to make room for that. Again, my schedule is really tight, so maybe I should turn you on. And if you want to start with Red Fox and start there, he's got probably more time even than I do, and he's certainly looking for new voices. Yeah, we are very welcoming, and we're no judgment from us, no matter what you have to say or how different your ideas are. We're interested to know where are you coming from, and what do you think, and what are ideas that you have. This is one of the things I loved about my interactions with Cammie, is that she's coming from areas that I hadn't thought to go down before, and once she got started, I'm like, oh yeah, that's awesome, right? And it fills in these blanks and these puzzle pieces that are missing. So we love that. If you feel like you got a piece of the puzzle, contact us, and we'd love to hear from you. So, or just call into the Poppycock Report one morning and get started that way. We'll love to get to know you. So contact me or Red. And Red, what's your even before the show ends? What's your email? I can just throw it out there. It's Roodvox, right?
Yeah. Megsy put it up for
at
me. ROODVOX @gmail.com.
That's what I thought.
She's certainly a great help, and she's almost kind of taking on the role of maybe my assistant in some ways.
Oh, she's like your own Rose 777.
Well, I wouldn't draw any comparisons, but she's been quite a help for me, and she is definitely a sponge for information.
And she's
which is great.
She's awesome.
It's all a big team, and she's definitely a leader of my team for sure.
Yeah, all of my interactions that I've had with Megsy has been just outstanding. I love that girl. She is amazing. And if you haven't,
super bright.
Yeah, exactly. And just like very observant, right? It's like she picks up on stuff before I even say it, because she's she gets what I was going to say or what I had said and go, oh, you're going to go here. Like, absolutely. Right. So you whip his ass. I love that. That's what assistant does right there. So yeah, we are all on the same team. Oh, Sue, thank you. I would love to. I did try to call Sue a while back, and she was too scared. But no, like, she's shy, and I get it. But she wrote a song. We're going to record that, and I love Rose too. I love you guys. I love that you guys show up here every week like clockwork, and I couldn't. I don't have the words to say thank you thank you enough. I'm so appreciative and so delighted to spend my time with you. And Red, thank you so much for reaching out to me. And I love that we've become friends, and now people even think of us, as cohorts and on the same team. And I think we should do more of it. Not that my wife would be thrilled if I start another stream, but.
Hey, it's my pleasure, and yeah, time is of the essence, and really, other than a body, that's all we're given, right? Is just time, so we've got to use it wisely.
It's a gift, right? And so that's where I'm at, and I think we agree on that. Is that it's time to speak up and let your voice be heard. So join us with that, and with that, everybody, thank you again so much for joining us today. I will try to throw a little music out here on the way out. In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do. Normally, I throw some pre-recorded music up, but it's always kind of a challenge, especially with these audio things. I have no idea how that works out. So here's what I'll do. Red, I'm going to drop the call. We'll talk again afterwards. I'm going to just do some of the old keyboard noodling on the way out. Let's kind of exit music, and then we'll talk again soon. And again, thanks, guys. I hope to see you tomorrow morning and on Tuesday and Thursday morning at Rose 777. Thanks, and have a great day.